at the minutes from last meeting?
Yes.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Nay. Voice vote means they're approved. Okay.
Okay.
Guess next is staff report.
We will, we're busy, very, very busy on all fronts. That's a good thing. From an economic development standpoint, we've got some serious construction going on. Clay Creek, got a lot of contractors up there working. The streets are in, the curbs are in, the storm sewers are 98% complete. The sanitary is everything but pressure tested, and they're installing water now, so they're moving along quickly. The other big thing going on is the villas at Smithville. The senior apartments is under construction. You've probably seen that work. They too are doing well. They haven't started on infrastructure. They've been working on grading. They got a lot of walls to build to level it, and all the big equipment's up there is doing the compaction to get the ground firm under where all the buildings are going to go. They're going to start doing their utility work next week. In both of those instances, I will highlight to you that the developer of the project is also the general contractor and will own the project when it's done. So from my inspector's standpoint, it's a perfect storm because these guys really care about the project being done and done right because they're going to own it. They don't want it to fall apart because they'll have to fix it. So the work is being done at a very high level, highest level I've seen for any of this stuff since I've been here. So I'm very pleased. Things are moving from the tax increment finance project up on the hill. That finally is settled. There is nothing pending, no more approvals. Last week, the last bit of the settlement agreement was done. It will be moving forward here shortly. I'm hearing rumors that there are additional expansions that may be going with commercial entities on the property south with that Heritage bought. They may be selling off a portion, I've heard. Nothing definitive, but somebody's looking at that. So that would be another interesting development if we get more commercial there. Very preliminary stage. I know that the Heritage Tractor folks are interested in that aspect. It'll help them with the cost of the land, et cetera, and that area south, a couple acres there would be plenty for most any retail environment or any of the other ones. And lastly, we're preparing to bid the big giant sewer project that we've been talking about for several years, the main lift station project, which will do a new main lift station and a gravity sewer interceptor from that plant down there roughly to the hill south of Pizza Hut. So we'll have gravity sewers throughout there. It will reduce a lot of the pressure off of our sanitary force main that comes through from south of town, which opens us up for the south end development in a few more years. So from an economic development standpoint, this public infrastructure project is probably the biggest project we've done in 35, 40 years here. It's going to be expensive. But it's not paid for by tax dollars, it's paid for by rates. So we're kind of thriving ahead, as they say. So, and then obviously, search committee is working hard to get a new city administrator. That process is going to be going on for the next 3, 4, 5 months. One of the directions the board has given current staff is we have to keep moving forward. So things are moving forward. That's all I've got. If you've got any questions about anything, I'll try to answer. If I can't answer it, I'll kick it to Micah. Okay. Then you can chamber report.
So different business activity happening. I think I mentioned this last time. Patty Farm, pretty much has moved out to the location next to Medicine Shop. North Point Development has been calling around to a lot of different businesses in the community trying to find a new tenant for the Patty Farm's old location. On that end, it's possibly for sale, for lease. The entire building could potentially be for sale. is what she's presenting to people as she's calling them. The rent for that space is $24.50 a month.
Is this the old optical center on the back?
Yeah.
Would be the south?
Yeah, yeah, on the back side there. So she's been calling several different businesses in town. She's been really trying to work that. So keep your feelers out if you hear any businesses or anybody looking for some space. Heritage Tractor is starting to, obviously everybody's seen the banner that's gone up. There's construction that's going on there. They've joined the chamber. They're starting to really get involved in the community. So that's definitely moving along. 9 Rounds is looking at possibly relocating up to across from Price Chopper. Right next to Short-Term Insurance. There's the 2 locations. It's the coffee shop and the gun shop, I believe.
Okay.
So, and then downtown, then there's the second photography studio that's downtown, Hopkins Photography. And she's been in there for a while, it's been in the works, and she's got her different photo studio, portrait studio set up. She's got a lot of different stuff there. Looks like she does a lot of outdoor photography, and she does quite a bit more indoor photography than what Rachel does in hers. She's been really focusing on a lot of sites, off-site locations. So things that we've been working on, so the chamber, we're doing our chamber membership renewals. We have implemented a new home-based business rate, $75. That will get you listed, if you want to be listed in the business area, you'll need to be a 1 to 3 person business. If you want to be engaged in the chamber, get involved in the events, but you don't want to pay the larger fee, then you can be in the home-based business section that's in its own part. We're hoping that that will help engage more people into the different business and community events in town and to offer more support for them. We'll track it to see how it goes. If you know of anybody, definitely send them to the chambers, send them in our direction. And then Micah, Carol had mentioned you sent an email about HOA listings. Is that something you want me to work on?
We found a really old list, and I say really old in our terms, it's from like early 2016. I think one of them probably doesn't even exist anymore. I know at least 1 or 2 new ones have come in, and the contacts are all completely out of date. It would be nice to have it. In a lot of cases, when we're reaching out to homeowner associations, we're using Nextdoor, Facebook, or, they'll have a Facebook page, that sort of thing. But especially if we end up with a project that involves them, or if somebody's got questions about a specific service there, I think it'd be nice to have.
We can work on that. That's another angle of our home-based businesses and also reaching out. Because we've actually had some different HOAs that have been interested in joining the chamber for our welcome program.
Well, I had somebody, I had a business, a landscaping business call me and basically say, hey, that was what originally brought this one up, and say, hey, who are the organizations in the area that I could bid my service out to? So.
Can you send me the list that you have so I can use that to go off of? And then I got a call from Tony with Municipal CMS inquiring about the tourism page, so I want to make some phone calls on that.
And that was actually one of the things I definitely wanted to talk to you about tonight. We'll get to it a little bit later, but I definitely want to get your thoughts on where we need to go with the website tourism-wise. So.
Okay. And then Rusty had brought up the lady with the Missouri Life Motorcycle Guide and started to reach out to see if something we want to do again. I still have a few boxes, but did it come out in May? It's about right. It's in the spring, April or May.
It was later than what they thought it was going to be. It was May or June.
But it'd be nice to get some, if we want to do it again, too.
And along those lines, I think we really need to consider it, but if we look down here at item 6A, we're getting ready to be hopefully looking at getting a consultant in that's going to really help us on these fronts. So I think if we can focus on what that person does, don't disagree that it seems to be a good ad. I haven't got any
I would
metrics
like
to
to
prove
see
that, but everybody that's seen it has been dutifully impressed with the ad, unaware that it was there. Oh, that's cool, I like that kind of stuff. And we have some left too, so.
So I just think that we're basically, if she got hold of me probably 3 weeks ago and wanted to know if we were going to do it again, because the deadline was basically here to not to submit things, but to say yay or
Reserve
nay.
page.
And I said, well, I can't really speak for anybody until our next meeting here. So, it's not something that we can probably decide in February.
Well, it can be something we discuss and decide in December, because it's not on the agenda. We do have to follow that process, but we can get it, when we come up with item 10, throw it out there for us to make sure I keep it in my notes so I can get it on the next agenda.
And then events coming up. It's going to be a big weekend in Smithville. We've got a lot going on. We've got the second year for the Light of Christmas Parade, which I'm confident will be even better than last year, which last year was phenomenal for the first year. We've got the Mayor's Christmas tree lighting is also on Saturday, and we also are having the Candyland Christmas in downtown Smithville. The Candyland Christmas is going from 2:30 to 5:30. There are maps. The kids can go visit different businesses, get goodies, different stuff. We'll have schoolhouse open like we did last year, so they can start there and get maps, or we'll have maps all around the different businesses to start wherever they want. And then the parade starts at 6 p.m. And the parade will, I believe, bring the mayor down to the main stage at the end of the parade, or Santa and the mayor, and that's where we'll have the mayor's Christmas tree lighting right there. So it's taken us a few years, but it's really turned into a good event. I'm glad it turned out that way. So the chamber will also be doing the Candyland Christmas on December 15th from 5 to 7 with the downtown merchants. So it's just to give people a second opportunity if they can't make it to the mayor's Christmas tree lighting. We also have Santa at the Firehouse, and then Ladoga Bridge is having their open house every sweater Saturday. Saturday, December 9th. So, that's what you guys know about.
And Shop with the Cop, right?
Oh, and Shop at the Cop, sorry.
And it's right through all of that.
It'll be Saturday as well.
I think I have something to do with it.
With everything going on,
Can I
they
get a
can
ticket?
stop in there.
I think I've got all those
Cash in my
out
pocket.
on social media except for Ladoga's, so I'll throw that in.
Okay, and it's on the chamber website. Or I think there's a link to the city page too.
Okay.
So you should be able to find information.
I do have a question for Leah. At the last meeting, you mentioned the Meadow and 169 vacancy.
Yeah, that is actually going to be under Edward Jones.
Okay, it is going to go back. Okay.
Yeah, I did confirm. I thought I had seen it on it. Yeah.
You may have. I'm kind of busy.
Yeah, they are looking for a new agent to replace it.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought they moved the...
They're still going to have two in town again.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that update.
On Friday, did Sarah talk to you at all today? On Friday, do you want Christmas music playing earlier in the day?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll take care of it.
yeah, that would be great. On
Friday the... Saturday or Friday?
Saturday.
Saturday the
For the
2nd.
Candyland Christmas.
Is there anything going on Friday night?
No.
Hopefully people going down to that barbecue place and eating.
Yeah,
Yeah. But during the day on Saturday,
right,
if you can.
Yeah.
That would be great. While the kids and everybody is out and around.
yeah.
Okay.
Chairman's report is nil. Still getting my feet underneath me here, so try to have something better for you next month.
You're doing fine, Marshall.
And then this will be RFP.
Okay, we have two things outstanding that we're working on that impact the economic development folks. The two items are the marketing consultant, which was part of the strategic plan that we'll be going over in the next item, but it was part of our strategic plan to market our community. It was concluded in the budget. We have the bids. Mike is going to talk about those here in just a minute. We've sent you those. I hope I know I had to send them to Todd 3 times because everything was wrong on his email address and I couldn't fix it, but I hope he got them. And then the second one is website design. It impacts you all. We don't need you to vote on it. It's already been to the board, and it will be coming up at the next meeting on the 4th because everything's on the work session on the 11th, so we've moved it to the 4th. And we've got a presentation coming. Bids come in for a new website design that incorporates the branding initiative that we've got, part of the Economic Development Strategic Plan, makes it a lot more comprehensive for the impact as it relates to what's going on and how we do it. And it may also impact some of the tourism stuff. We'll talk to Leah about that, how best we can coordinate that effort. But let's start with the marketing consultant stuff. We sent you the 3 submittals that we received. There were Trezolo, Native Digital, and my memory is gone.
World Class Media.
World Class Media. Candid did not submit, which is fine either way. Gave you the full packet. Hope you had an opportunity to look at it. I'm going to get quiet right now, and I'm going to let Micah go over the process he went through to make his evaluation, and then we sat down, and based upon our conversation, we're making a recommendation to you. You guys have had the opportunity to review it, and we need you to make a recommendation to the board as to which one of the 3 firms to go with. So with that all delayed in your time, we'll give it to Micah to let him go through each of the 3 offers out there.
Okay. We did have, as Jack said, 3 submittals for the marketing RFP. In assessing each of these, I took a look at both the Economic Development Committee's strategic plan and the city's mission, vision, and values and the goals that they set citywide. There was some pretty good competition between the options, but I think 2 of the 3 definitely stood out as the best potentials. When we look at Trezolo's, which you all had emailed to you, their focus is on taking their experiences in smaller companies and governments, cities that are looking to sort of rebrand themselves as we've done recently and get their name out there. They're certainly up our alley. The only concerns with them were that they didn't have an estimate on media spend, because if we're going to start a marketing campaign, it's going to cost some money to put out materials, whether they be full commercials all the way down to improved social media advertisements. The concern was not that they couldn't have provided us with that, it's that with all their experience with small governments, they still haven't done any, at least from what they submitted to us, it didn't look like they had done any major campaigns of really taking a city and getting their name out there to get more people in. They did a lot of rebranding, a lot of, hey, here's our new look, here's our new feel, but not a lot of, hey, come to our city, this is why you should. So although they were very highly qualified, my recommendation ended up being Native Digital. Their experience is really, really varied, and they've done some major statewide tourism campaigns in the past. In the packet that was sent to you, it has some of their examples, but some of them in here are frankly pretty impressive. The company Politico did their rebranding. The Visit Tucson content that they did. The City of San Jose stuff I thought was fantastic. again, they did everything from billboards to t-shirts to TV commercials to basically everything that a city could want to really draw people in. And using their experience, they estimated for a city our size and the specific tasks that we're looking at as far as drawing new businesses and new tourist sources, I guess. I don't want to say supplies because we don't want to commoditize them, but based on that, they estimate a $20,000 media spend, which is not terrible for a year's worth of media. They also happen to have the lowest per hour cost. They offered us, I think, 400 hours of brand discussion, media planning, media creation, and media buy, meaning they actually, from start to finish, they're going to take our ideas, come up with a design, get it approved by us, and go produce it and put it out where it needs to go for, I forget what the final number was.
70.
Okay, so, and that's with the media spend. So it was 400 hours for 50,000 plus the 20,000 media spend, which 70,000 for a campaign to essentially bring in, we don't have an exact number because we've never done something like this before, but to bring in people from sources that we have never tapped is really not exorbitant for a city our size. So,
And it was the lowest.
it was, yeah, as I said, they were the lowest per hour, and they provided us with a reasonable media spend. And with their experience, it seems like they have the chops to pull it off. So, therein lies the recommendation for Native Digital, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
If any of you had the opportunity to review Terzolo, Native, or the
World-class media.
World Class, sorry. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, now would be the time. If you disagree with Micah and my recommendation, you need to let us know now. You need to because we need to go to the board with a recommendation. The sooner the better. So,
this may have been in the materials that were sent to us. I didn't get through all of them. The RFP, I assume, requested a budget for meeting spend?
It did not specifically because, well, for two reasons. First off, my background isn't marketing. And so I'm not going to claim to be the expert here in exactly what is expected in a marketing program or what the correct spend for a marketing program is. I can only go based on the research I've found for similar sized projects. What I asked them for was primarily honestly, a request for, not request for experience, what am I thinking of?
Qualifications.
Qualifications, thank you.
Right.
A combination of a request for qualifications that, again, showing us what their experience is in the field, and then also,
timeline budget.
yeah, essentially, how much work do you think this is going to take, and at what cost to do a project this size? So I left the expertise with the numbers up to them, and basically just said, based on your experience, tell me what I need to know.
Right.
So what do you were spending 50,000 or 70,000 in the end. What does that cost us in the end? What do we pay for? I mean, when they come up with the idea of like the magazine, we still pay for the magazine.
That would be part of media spend.
Yeah.
That's not coming out of that 70,000, correct?
Well,
No.
the 70 is 50,000 for the hourly and 20,000 for the media spend.
So we have $20,000 to spend for our magazines or whatever.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
The actual
For
advertising.
whatever the actual marketing outreach is.
Did either one of the other companies have a basis of like their 50,000 to 20,000? Did anybody else have a number there like theirs come in 40? Because to be honest, I haven't read through all this. I skimmed it before I came, and I've skimmed it since we've been here. I've been kind of looking as you was talking. But do we have anything else to base like the other companies on? I know you've done a great job, but I was just asking for my own benefit and everybody else's, because everybody else.
Yeah, to clarify, we had one that was uniquely different than the rest and exorbitantly expensive, way beyond our budget, way beyond what we estimated. So we haven't discussed that group too much. The other two were remarkably similar in what they offered versus what the cost is. As Micah indicated, they both came in at $50 for their consulting work. The recommendation for Native is in part because both of them are doing $50, but Native will also be doing the ad sales for the extra $2 that we pay to billboard companies or TV stations to get the ad, or whatever their recommendation is, and that's what they're going to be doing.
Does the other company not offer this?
They do, but that was part of what made the distinction for me. Native Digital built media buying and putting it out there as part of their hours. They knew that should be part of their job.
Or offered it.
Or they offered it. The other company, Trozzolo, does mention media purchasing in their services, but they don't indicate whether or not that would be inherently part of the hours that we're purchasing from them, or if we would have to limit our development hours in order to use some of those for media buy, or that sort of thing. So we felt overall that Native Digital did a better job of explaining from start to finish what their role was going to be.
What is that?
This is the actual
bid document.
This is the bid document that has everything from their background to the way they do their research to their references, their examples, that sort of stuff. And that's what we sent you in email, but you are more than welcome, any of you, to look at this. I've actually got 2 more copies in the office I can get.
So on that,
One more, because we had to tear one of them apart.
That's right.
you said that one was more expensive. Did they have any breakdown, like, say there was 70, and I don't even know how much it was, but say it was 70, did they give like a 30, or was the percentages the same? Does somebody have a formula that they're working off of for that?
No,
Is there anything that followed suit?
Not that I know of. The one that was far higher was actually had the least documentation with it, so it was hard to judge it on the same characteristics, but it was almost twice as expensive as...
It was $10,000 a month
Right.
for 10 months. Well, I take that back. $10,000 a month for a 2-year, month to month for 2 years.
Correct.
So 240.
Right.
Kind of beyond our budget.
Right. The Trozzolo one, as Jack said, they both had the same for their base services. And really the thing is, media spend is whatever you want it to be. We can put as much or as little money as we want into whatever advertisements we want. We could spend $1 million on a Super Bowl ad for all they care. They're going to put the money where we tell them to.
Yeah.
But Native Digital specified that for a city this size, for the type of projects we're looking at, a media spend of $20,000 was probably appropriate.
And so the question I have is on that. They've got a media spend of $20,000 on page 40. But the media planning and buying is almost half that. So for $87.50,
right,
we're going to turn around and spend it on $20,000 buy, and that's the number that kind of got my attention on. Almost half of it's being spent on planning the buy instead of actual hardware.
Well, and some of that is also, given their experience and their connections in the industry, presumably getting us some deals either on bulk or in specific venues. It's something that some of the other companies might not be able to offer us. Right. And again, it's one of those where we'll have the final say as far as what routes we choose and how much of that money really goes to what. So it's still in our hands as far as determining what the best, cost per, in online we say cost per click, but what the best bang for the buck is.
Well, and the other thing is, what I look at this as almost a bifurcated process. We have the consultancy, 50, and then They're saying 20 additional, 10 months of 2,000 a month pushes will do the marketing we're talking about. Now, we'll be evaluating it in 12 months and figuring out where we're going from there, obviously. Actually, we'll be evaluating in half that time because we'll have the next year's budget to be addressing it with. But, so we have that aspect of it. The other Trozzolo, while it's in the same range, my guess is if it's all the media buy aspect of it, they're probably going to be similar. For me, Micah looked at it from his perspective. My perspective was the penny pincher, and that is 285 hours of work from a firm that wants to get in to help us versus 400 hours of work. Now, when you look at their proposals, both of them are professional, high quality product they submitted. So that kind of balanced out from my perspective. They both have substantial experience in varying markets, some with local government, some with tourism. So they both have a lot of that. They're similar. But for me, it was their product looks very similar, but if we get 400 hours worth of work, I'm hoping, it seems to me that the makes more sense. That was my weighing factor. Mike and I, while I don't disagree with Micah, the reason for me was the 400 hours versus 285. Micah's done we haven't done did you like them? We've pulled their stuff up off of the... Yeah.
We've looked at
verified
final product. We've verified final product, but I haven't called cities and said, hey, what'd you think of them yet? So, yeah.
Trozzolo? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Visit KC is a native.
Yeah, both of these are Kansas City natives. They're both based in Kansas City. They both have a number of prominent Kansas City clients. Digital Native did the Go KC ad campaign. Trozzolo has a number of smaller clients in the area. They have a couple of county level. So, I mean, they both know the area and what we need out of it. So
they both know their stuff.
Yeah.
I think that. So we're giving you our recommendation from a staff perspective. For two different reasons, we agreed on the same guys. But ultimately, as the city code says, this committee makes recommendations to the board on these issues. And when we adopted the strategic plan year ago, whatever it was, that was one of the items we discussed then, that you guys make those recommendations. So ultimately where we're at is make a recommendation to the board on one of the three. Theoretically, we gave you three of them. Staff would strongly urge to not go with the one because it's beyond our budget. We didn't budget we can fit the 50 and the 70 both into our systems. We have that in the priority-based budgeting system that we've implemented. We are capable of handling either one of the other two. So
we haven't checked references per se in terms of phone call.
No. Do you like them? Right.
But how will we know them by reputation?
Other than their product on the street?
I mean, association with other cities that are using these.
Right, and that's part of why I sort of stopped short of actually calling the cities, because in looking at the actual campaigns both companies have done, they both have very well-known campaigns on their roster.
And local.
Both locally and nationwide, because they both work nationwide. They both have very well-known campaigns that
I've seen.
Yeah, I've seen in various places and gone, oh yeah, I know about when they did that. That's still active. I still see people doing that. So yeah.
Both of them are highly qualified. Both of them, we believe, will do a great job for us as a community. We had to come up and pick one. So do you guys.
I'm familiar with Native. I know their work. I've seen their work. I've seen what they've done for folks. I think they're good. I think if you flip through there, you recognize a lot of their campaigns. And frankly, I see a lot of them on my drive. Our new Wyoming one is really good. If you're doing a billboard, it takes a lot to catch my attention, but that one caught my attention, so.
I was actually surprised at how many billboards they had in there, because we don't think of billboards as the go-to medium anymore. But if you do it right, it really can be. And they've done a number of them that I was like, oh yeah, I've seen that one. Because, like you said, half the time you don't pay attention to them, but...
Well, if they don't change that, yeah.
Out of curiosity, anyone know who did Clay County's that they pushed out not too long ago?
I don't off the top of my head. I can probably find out.
No, I can tell you from our history that we didn't look too deeply in that, but you understand.
Yeah.
Understood, but
Yeah, I don't disagree that that's
knowing they've done a
probably-
lot of work in the area anyway.
Yeah.
We basically just put it out there open
Visit
to everyone,
Clay.
and
Visit Clay.
I think that's what it is.
we're hoping to get.
Yeah.
I know the book's not made it all the way around, but I, for one, am comfortable with your assessment and would move to approve as a digital native as the marketing consultant to be recommended for volume.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Hang on just a second, sorry. This is where, in one of these, we would open it up for discussion. Any discussion related to that recommendation? If not, then you
After the first and second.
Yeah, once you have the second, then you can
Yeah,
open
yeah,
it for
discussion.
discussion. Any discussion specific to this motion? Which, and
Any
it's,
discussion?
Native digital.
yeah, to native,
Not digital native.
yeah.
Actually,
We're all
I
kind of digital native, right?
think, I think they did better.
Or naive, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just seems to me that the $20,000 spend isn't going to get us very far. But
They had a breakdown, it's around page 42, I think, and it's got $2,000 per month starting, I mean, think about what we spent on Missouri like motorcycle types happening in months. It's a lot more than doing now.
Especially when you're doing it in bulk or in large venues, 2,000 a month is not terrible for media, at least from what I can tell from my research. Obviously, if we felt we needed, if there was something we really wanted to do that they came up with, and we really wanted to get it out there and make sure that it got out, we could always bring another budget recommendation.
And this process likely
Whether
won't-
it would go through, but
Yeah, right. And that's the wonderfulness of being the recommending body. You guys make a recommendation, when it goes to the board, they can ignore this recommendation too,
So
so.
to Michael's point, these
Yeah.
firms have, bulk pricing, they
Yeah.
can get a lot
Yeah.
done. A lot more done than we could.
In March, April, and May, you guys are going to be pushing for a new budget recommendation for the EDC strategic plan work, just like you did last year. And that question may be one of the things we want to really evaluate. At that time, we're going to have hopefully one of these two firms assisting us in the future budgeting, what we're going to need to expand. We may think, wow, we don't even need to spend $2,000. They're doing a great job. Or maybe we need to make it $10,000 a month over the summer, whatever. But we'll have to do that evaluation. I fully understand your concern, Rusty. It seems like maybe it's perfect.
Artwork and stuff that we need done in these 400 hours, it may not always be $50,000 for.
Yeah.
correct.
That's gonna change, and then that gives us more money for.
Yeah, it depends on how the development process ends up. If we all end up clicking and working really well together and we get ideas knocked out really quick, we can get a lot done in a little bit of time and have more money to push on the spend. As Jack indicates, the big thing, this really is a two-pronged approach, because the consulting work has to happen first, and that's really what we need to get started. We need to figure out, as I said, my background is not marketing. I do all right on the social media. We've got more people coming in, engaging with us. We've got some more positive rapport now, mostly. But
We're
You're a public institution, there's always going to be.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Every government is bad.
But that doesn't mean I can draw up an amazing piece of artwork for a shirt or shoot a commercial or that sort of stuff. So we really need someone with the specialty to come in and say, here's what's most likely to work for this city to make it really thrive.
Well, and a good example of that is, I spent hours and hours out taking pictures of this town and staging Cossacks and
really
making
hard.
Jackie hold the cheesecake, and then when we go to do the motorcycle ad, the one picture that truly worked was the one that Cameron did.
Right.
And it's kind of, as I looked at these different proposals, as you kind of laid out, it's getting that creative done originally. Yeah, we're going to need to refresh every now and again, but that initial work is the hard part, right?
And I don't know how many times I've needed an ad or something to go into some publication. And I'm trying to create something on my own.
Yeah, this picture keeps coming back up, right?
Yeah, we use that's the thing is right now we use the same 4 or 5 like formats and pictures for everything we put out, and people are noticing now that hey, they're kind of reusing the same old tactic.
Yeah.
Well, in public administration, a lot of what you do, you're generalist, in your work. Certainly you have some experts in different areas, but there are many times you really need to train people that are experts at this or that.
It's the same concept behind the website.
Yeah.
I can build a website, but I haven't done it in years. So if we're going to have it done right, it needs to be a specialist. It's the same thing with the marketing proposal.
Yeah, it's time for us to
We're better off than you to spend your time.
Yeah, you don't want to pay me to waste your time making that website or doing the marketing when somebody else could do it less per hour.
Well, and I think
Far better.
I would look at it a little differently, get the same result. We brought him in for communications, not marketing. If we take him away from communications, we've just we hamstrung ourselves on what our goal was. Our listed goal was to increase our communication. If we stop that and do this, we have eliminated, we can throw the plan away because we've just bypassed it.
You can work with a consultant that does
Right,
that.
right.
And get both of them done.
Right. My example is we have the equipment and the manpower to build a bridge down on Amory. We could do that. It'd take us forever, and we wouldn't have a warranty at the end of it. And we already pay all those guys, and we already own all that equipment. But there's some value to having a professional do it that'll give us a warranty and do those things, so that we've got guys that actually are repairing streets, not replacing and all that work. So that same logic is the way I would look at it from my perspective.
So you should just look at it from the perspective of an ongoing multi-year relationship with both these guys on the project?
The initial contract would only be for that first 12 months of consulting and media, whatever media spend we push out in that time. If it, again, we have to assess it as we go, but if it works well and we're seeing benefits from it, there's no reason we wouldn't consider continuing that relationship, I would assume. Again, I may pick up a few things from them as far as how to format an advertisement on the fly, but I'm still not going to be the one to go shoot a commercial after just a year of watching them do it. So if it still benefits us, then that's something we may want to consider.
Well, I would think after we work with them and take this amount of money, it would be good to pick the one that would have the best chance of having a good long-term relationship with us.
Right.
So if, we're looking at one that may be best on the proposal for right now, but if the other one seems like a better partner long-term,
Sure.
then we might, I don't know if you guys give that any consideration.
And here's what I will tell you on that front, because that was a concern of mine, was, are we getting a one-trick pony? Is this it? Boom, and they're gone? Both of them are the same on that. They want to get in the door, because then they can continue doing the work. And they're both local. Yeah.
They both have some very long-running campaigns locally. So it seems like they're both very good about.
And the length of those
sticking
runs and the length of those relationships are 90% run by the client. Client controls that. Sometimes they say, we're done, never mind. We can't do anything more for you, or you won't go where we think you need to be, so you probably ought to get somebody else who thinks like you. From our standpoint, from my perspective in advertising, we're neophytes.
Right. Well, and at this point, it's free for asking if you want to ask the other front runner for an advertising budget.
For media spend. I can certainly contact them and ask them if they have a suggested media spend. Yeah, that would be.
It would kind of be interesting if they came back and said 100,000 a year, and then we've got 20 here. It's like, where's the discount?
Right.
But that would delay.
It would delay.
Right. It would delay it. The bigger thing for me is how are we going to know what we need to spend? I mean, we've got one that's already said $10,000 a month for 2 years. I just know we don't have that much money.
The campaign set up for 50,000. What if at 35,000 we've met where we want to be at? Is it still pay the extra 15, or are we cut off at 35? Is it we're going to pay you 50,000 here regardless?
Do we have to buy the 400 hours?
Do we have to buy the 400 hours if we've met where we want to be at? And
That'll be part of the actual contract.
Right. Yeah, their proposal is for 400, but we can. I mean, the contract, assuming they're amenable to it, the contract can state whatever we need to state.
We have an hourly rate.
Right.
Yeah, because what I was thinking is, okay, we come in here, and I don't know if we get to review this, or if it's just the board of alternates, or if just Jack does, or how, but say we went 250 hours in this, and they come up with this brilliant idea, but this brilliant idea is going to cost us $30,000 or $40,000. Could we take and invert our money there, go ahead and do that, and then wait till next budget to buy more time? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jack hits it on the head when he says that it's all about how the contract's written. I don't. With most of these companies, they're pretty flexible on, so long as we've got a good idea and we've got the money to run it, let's run with it. So I don't foresee that being a problem. But again, a lot of it would depend on how we write the contract.
Right. And they are generally these. Anytime you hire one of these big consultants, whether they're marketing or website design or whatever it is, it's much cheaper for the city to get their contract and tweak it to make it fit our needs. I think your concerns are something that we can certainly. It costs the city way too much to pay our attorney to draft a contract from scratch on one of these. Give us your contract and we'll say yay or nay. And we've been doing that on all kinds of things.
Jack, what is the budget amount?
Well, it's kind of a nebulous number, but we can afford 70.
So we give the recommendation to go with this company, and then what's the next step? Do we get input on recommendations for the marketing, or what we would like to see, or it's not just tourism.
It's right, but here's the way it'll work. This group is going to be the client. They're going to have to come meet and talk with us on a Tuesday night in December or January or whenever with their group, and we'll have those sessions. It may be that they can meet with us individually, similar to the search consultant that the board has hired for the city administrator process. He's meeting with stakeholders now. They're going to want to do the same thing, get our ideas, get our thoughts. They're going to want to know where that's at. But ultimately, yes, I think it's going to be imperative that this body do that, have that discussion. It shouldn't be Micah and I, it's you guys.
So it's not just a tourism billboard campaign. It's a,
No.
you know, when we go to the ICSC conference in Las Vegas and we want a good economic development
Correct.
page, they
I was-
potentially be a part of.
Right. I was particularly impressed by Native Digital's tourism efforts because they are large scale and well known. But across the board, they can do all of the things that we had in the RFP that we were looking for. So as far as commercial, new businesses, expansion, I mean, they ticked all the boxes. So.
I got one more question.
That's all right.
Why would we not want to meet before we made a recommendation? We've went this long with zero budget toward this, and now you're asking me to, or asking us as a group to spend $70,000 or $50,000. We're really actually only spending $50,000 to $20,000 so
Later.
that we're actually getting in return, right?
Yeah.
That we're going to get to see.
Right.
Tangible.
Yeah. Why would we not want to? Why would we not want to meet them first?
There's no reason we can't.
Right.
I mean, generally, when we're looking at these companies, a lot of what we're looking at is their work. What is their work? What results have they seen? Did they get the job done? Because even if I don't click with someone perfectly,
Right.
if they get the job done, money well spent. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there's no reason we can't
Right.
ask them to demo or just come say hey to us. Call in, stream, whatever we need to do just to get a feel for it.
Well, and the two primary ones are both local, so the
Correct.
likelihood of getting them here.
Correct.
The difficulty or this only concern I would have with that methodology, Phil, is that it could potentially have us selecting a personality, because they're going to send in the big guy, the guy that gets up, that closes the deal.
You're going to send in the Micah of their own.
Yeah. They're gonna have the pharmaceutical salesman from their group coming in, the prettiest, most slick, that
That's
done
what I
research.
said, the Micah of their own.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that's what. So it becomes a factor of personality. We tried to pull personality out and see results. What did you do? And like I said, we're down to 2. Both of them qualified to do the job.
I think this one is great. My only concern is just, if they sit here and, we had our little question and answer statement, you'd be right there with, hey, what if we see results at this dollar? There's just a lot of questions that you could kick back at them. This may be too low a money, we may not be spending enough, but in the same token, just makes me think, man, wow, we're spending $50,000 and we haven't never spent, and we've been spending zero. And now all of a sudden $50,000, maybe $50,000 is chump change and it doesn't matter. But then again, man, no, I shook that guy's hand and yeah, he's going to do everything that he says here, and I really feel comfortable with him, and we made the right decision.
And right.
That's just me.
No, I don't disagree with you. That's the.
I
It's
think
that
there's
person.
value in that, and if that's what the direction the council wants to go, I'm right there with you. But for me, I feel like we have a good representation of their work. I feel that both of you have done your due diligence, and I feel like we're getting into, again, this group makes the recommendation to the Board of Aldermen, so we're responsible for that recommendation. So I don't disagree with Phil in that regard. But unless we're uncomfortable with your work, I don't want to get any deeper into the weeds of your work. Just my
Please don't take me wrong.
I've seen it happen.
I'm not with your guys' work at all. I think you did a great job. I think you did super. It's just, you're asking for me to say, okay, yeah, I recommend it, but yeah, I just don't feel like I've done it.
As a communications guy, I absolutely get that. Wanting to look them in the eye, to ask them questions, shake the hand, I absolutely get that. And like I said, there's no reason we can't. You're right, we haven't spent any money on it. The big cautions, as Jack says, are, we don't want to get swept into personality. Not to mention, you're right, we haven't done this before, but the question is, how far behind are we on doing this? Because as a city, we haven't done it before, doesn't mean we shouldn't have been doing it 2 years ago. Right?
Or 10.
Or 10 years ago. As far as keeping things moving. The sooner we get moving on this, the sooner we get results and hopefully start seeing improvement, is the idea.
I would say that no matter what, we're going to get value out of this spend. Now, are we going to get $70,000 value or 65 or 85? It's probably going to be irrelevant given that, like you said, we're behind. The sooner we get going, the better. And then after we get through this experience, if we will reevaluate
And the other thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is, even if this body makes a recommendation to the board, if in the meantime you want me to go talk to these people, to have them demo with us, to try and come in and see us, I can absolutely do that, and I can try and get a feel for them. I can give you a report on that. If we're not comfortable with it, we don't have to continue with that recommendation, is my understanding.
We can reevaluate and
So-
say, whoa, we got to come back to the EDC.
Correct. So if you want me to continue to delve into it, check those references, to again, try and get a feel for them, I'd be more than happy to do that for you, so that you don't have to take your time to do that.
We know both of these firms are quality firms. I mean,
Correct.
you feel confident.
Yes.
Saying that. We're all
Quality
familiar
firms,
with-
quality product.
Yeah, so it's a one-year agreement.
You can get out in 3 months. The client may terminate this agreement after 3 months of service if native digital material breaches any of its representations, warranties, or agreements under this agreement upon any termination of expiration. We just have to pay
What they've spent, yeah.
And that's
So
So you've got almost a
An hour.
90-day,
Yeah.
now if they spent $4,000 in 90 days, well, then, or $40,000 in 90 days. I don't think that's.
And ultimately, if you look at their San Jose presentation, started with stakeholders, just like any consultant does. Who are you? What do you want? They're going to want to do they're going to, I can tell you right now, they're going to want to see our SWOT analyses that we've done. They're going to want to see our mission, vision, values that the board's done. They're going to want to see the economic development strategic plan. They're going to want the rebranding stuff, with all of that. They're going to want to see all that.
the market outlook.
And if you look at the beginning, you can tell they've already done some research on our community because they're local. I mean, they got Jonathan and Camille's picture in it. So on the very front page, they did the research.
So what's our checks and balances with them? Are we going to have a monthly update of what they've done, what they're spending, what the what the next month looks like for what they plan on doing that month?
They lay out in their timed breakdown that you generally have a monthly report. The initial thing is sit down with stakeholders, both to do initial research out in the community and to figure out what we want from them. And then from there, they start figuring out what would work for us and developing that. And we get monthly reports both on the ideas they've come up with, things they put into action, results that they've had. Here's the current deal on this media buy, that sort of thing. So we should be kept well informed of all that.
Right. And it'll be in this room with you guys most of the time.
That's what I'd like to. Yeah. With that amount of money coming out, $10 grand a month, or $20 grand a month, we need to make sure that we know where this money is going and that we see results. Past this room, past what's on paper. We see it on a billboard, we see it on a commercial, or we see it hear it on the radio, something.
And it shouldn't just be a single billboard down in Tennessee or something.
I
Right.
do agree with that, and this would be maybe me speaking on behalf of the community. I don't want to see a lot of time wasted recreating what was done in the branding. I want to see ads and pictures, and I want, when we get a call, hey, I need an ad for this, I want it pretty soon.
And I don't, not
I
only
don't want to
that.
sit in a lot of focus groups again, we've already done that.
I certainly
The
don't-
community doesn't want the money to go toward
Right.
either.
And I don't want to see a billboard in Smithville.
Right, for Smithville, yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing one in Gladstone. I wouldn't mind seeing
Sure.
one.
But if it's sitting over there by Pizza Hut, we got the wrong firm. We'll find that out like that.
No, it seems,
Should be anything within 10 miles or 5 miles of here.
right.
What their marketing analysis
It seems to
tells
me
us.
like they are more than willing to take what we have already done and actually put it into action. And that was one of the big considerations for both the top two, was they had already looked at some of ours and said, okay, here's what we've noticed. Now what can we do with it?
So 2 quick comments. One, to answer my own question, Trozzolo did the Clay County branding or marketing, so saw that in their proposal. And the other is, while I agree with reports here, I kind of I want to make sure we have a staff member who's assigned to it and running it, so that if there's something that needs to be done, we aren't waiting a month to make decisions.
I kind of assumed that would be me at this point.
Well, You
Yeah.
kind of made the
But, yeah.
comment on they're coming to this group, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify that
Oh, no.
somebody.
We're going to be running it,
Right.
but we're not going. But it's ultimately going to be
Okay.
100% you all involved in all of the decisions.
With that, I'll throw out, I think we got a first and a second. We've had a lot of discussion.
One more thing before we vote, or actually two more things. I appreciate Phil's comments about the flexibility in the contract. So, from my perspective, I would appreciate your pursuit of that.
I've made a note to discuss that.
And secondly, if we do a TV commercial, I want to see Phil right.
He'll be there with a wrench. Opposed.
Okay.
We've had the first and second. All in favor, aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Any opposed? No? Nay?
Okay. We will make a recommendation of that group. I always native digital. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Digital native reversed.
Somebody's showing the page.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was hoping. I was going to take it from Phil, and then I was like, no, we're okay. Okay.
There's three of those 50/50, rights of 50/50 split.
And they do that on purpose so you can check national and local. They have more on their website, but I just mentioned it.
I wondered why. I wondered if it was just, so you answered my question.
It's so you've got a couple locals and so you can ask around the information.
I will quickly, now that we're done with that one, go through the website design stuff. It's in the board's hands. We will be discussing that, hopefully with a thumbs up, thumbs down with the bid process that we have. We have 5 or 6 bidders. Staff's made a recommendation. Board's doing a little deeper dive into the weeds of it, so they can get a better understanding. It's kind of a big deal to the city.
Did you say that was on the 4th?
Yeah, it said actually the next meeting, so that we don't have 46 things on the 11th.
Okay.
Which is the study session, which is the actual...
The next board meeting is the real board meeting. The one after it is the work session. Right now, we've got 7 items on the work
The
session.
fifth is
and
the
none.
board meeting. 5th is the board meeting. The 11th is the.
Did I say
work
4th
session.
again?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I screwed you up
5th
again.
is the board meeting. The
Sorry.
11th is the work session. The work session had a lot on it. The board meeting did not. And the company was available to come demo on the 5th. So
Yeah.
we asked them to come demo.
So we will have the website concept.
Okay.
So you,
Then-
the all you run the risk of the snake oil salesman, as opposed to the pharmaceutical salesman.
Yeah, I couldn't think of snake oil, so sorry. But ultimately, yeah, and it's the evaluation. Let the board figure out where they want to go with it. They can always kick it back, and we can start the process over. We don't know. We're just here doing what we're doing. So, but wanted you to know that the strategic plan to get that branding initiative implemented into the system, into our universal communications strategy, is potentially coming down the road. We'll see where the board decides to go.
So tune in on the 5th and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already.
Yes.
Yes.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel.
So we watched the discussion on this item on the last meeting. That wasn't
Oh, okay.
quite a discussion. It's kind of lengthy. It was lengthy.
Yeah, yes. Okay.
You on the strategic plan?
One of the items that someone, I don't remember who it was, brought up was to go over the strategic plan goals and where kind of we've been going, what we've been doing. So Micah and I separately took notes based upon our own recollection, memory, or research. I've given you the plan with goals 1 through 6 in it. I've got some notes that I'll go through, and I will ask Micah to highlight to me, oh, you forgot this, as we go. Number 1, utilizing the branding initiative framework. We've been slowly moving that forward. This marketing plan gets us to the next step of that. Utilizing a wide range of marketing opportunities to promote Smithville. We've expanded social media substantially. We had the motorcycle guide, as Rusty mentioned. We've got the upcoming RFPs, my notes are old apparently, with the website and the marketing RFP. So all of those things are the things we've been working on as staff for Goal 1. Goal 2, which is facilitating opportunities to encourage new business and development. One of those is to use community partners to provide a clearinghouse of information for economic and community development opportunities. For me, that is our chamber contract. We just renewed the chamber contract for 2017-18, that fiscal year. Leah is going to be our primary point of contact, and Leah's, as you all know, Leah's position at the chamber changed, focusing on some of the similar concepts that the marketing RFP folks are doing, and that is this tourism and getting the hits of people. We want people to know Smithville's here, and we want them coming here. So part of the chamber contract, we tweaked, associated ourselves with tourism. So I think we're moving forward on that one. As it relates to Goal 3, facilitating opportunities for current businesses to thrive, we're kind of behind in that one. We have the updated economic development toolbox. We have the ongoing and a little behind discussion about a CID downtown, which will potentially help revitalize that process for the downtown area. We haven't done much else in Goal 3 as of yet. We will need to up the game on that. In Goal 4, we've already implemented a historic district, and we are going to be working over the next 4 months or so to get a plan together on, at least on social media, to highlight our historic district. We have significant contributing structures to our historic district. Those are some of the things that we're going to try to sell about our downtown. You may recall the city has acquired several MoDOT highways to gain control over them, or MoDOT roadways. They weren't there actually. They didn't. Main Street, for example, it's always Main Street. It became Double D Highway when MoDOT needed the path when the lake came in, so they acquired the lease to it so that they would be able to maintain it as a state route. We've got it back. That means some street name changes. That in effect means we're going to be kind of rebranding downtown. So some of those things are part of that. The board has approved the final design for the downtown streetscape, which is part of that downtown master plan that talks in item 2 of the project. The downtown master plan itself is not complete, but the first step of that is to do an infrastructure revitalization, and we're there. That should be bidding sometime in the next few months. Don't know when. Got so many things going on. Also, the possible CID for downtown that kind of implements item 1 here. Goal 5. The community investment program is working. We had our first direct inquiry today from David Lynn about the festival. That's our festival investment program. Mike and I have chatted about it, but our anticipation is sometime at the end of December, we'll be in a position to, here's the full sale, here's all the paperwork, and everybody, here's your deadlines, so that we can have plenty of time for this group to evaluate the recommendations from staff, evaluate the applications in conjunction with that, and make a recommendation for a buy, what they each of them get. And as you may recall, this is 100% $1,500 or whatever the number is. Let's say it's $1,500. They then have to submit receipts based upon the application of what they were going to be doing, and we pay out on that. So we're going to be rolling that out shortly, so that before the festivals start in the spring, we've got the funding in place for anybody that's interested.
We talked about having a meeting in January with all of our event planners.
Mm-hmm.
Showing how to fill up the points.
Right. But I think we need to do the sell first.
Well, and before even that, actually, for the December, when we get to new business, I'm going to put on the agenda, if that's all right, some recommended changes to that paperwork, because some of it is very specific to that first year and needs to be updated, and there's a few things that we can change to make it a little easier for people that want to use it anyway.
Right.
So.
Yep. And that's Micah's note. He must have saw his note there on my paper. So we've got that policy. We have yet to fully envelop Micah into everything in this plan, because you can't drink from a fire hose. So one of those is the volunteerism program. We haven't even got there yet. We have started some aspects, but it's still in, apparently I used the in part of the dictionary and got stuck on neophyte. We're in the neophyte stage of creating a fundraising initiative. The Parks Department is working on a fundraising initiative associated with a sponsorship for their rec programs. If you haven't seen, their rec programs are really expanding and really moving forward. And those are economic development. And then the last one, we kind of got that one done. He's sitting here. So, goal 6, couple of things. Bringing on the communication coordinator, Micah, from the previous goal, identifies very well on goal 6 to enhance communications. And we've been getting a increased hit and generally positive hit on our social media of our new communication strategy. Some of them have been glowing thank you long emails thanking you for actually including the community. We've got a positive vibe moving on goal 6. I don't want to step on Micah yet, because I know as part of the minutes you will see somebody, I think it was Leah, recommended that we have a regular report on analytics. And we completely forgot that in the staff report, so we'll get to that at the end. But ultimately, that is another aspect of the goals that we're meeting. I've given you a clean copy of your strategic plan. We need to be prepared to do a pretty deep dive into it again. Some of them are already completed and done, and we need to tweak it. I would anticipate February, March, and April, right before we get into how much budget we're going to ask. We evaluate how much performance what progress we've made on this, what we can tweak. We talked about this last year as well. What do we need to change? What do we need to enhance, make a higher priority, etc.? And that'll be your all's focus, I hope, for February, March, and April, leading into the budget process of June, July, and August. So, got about 60 to 90 days to review this and be ready to start making comments. Okay? And I think, are there any questions of me related to that strategic plan review? That's where we're at least from our perspective. We know we're missing some stuff. We just haven't had time to get there yet. Okay?
Who takes care of the rec stuff?
Matthew Denton is the Parks and Recreation.
He's a parks manager with a marketing background.
Yeah. He got a master's in recreation management from Northwest Missouri. Both he and Micah have been working together on communication strategies associated with the departments, and those two are the guys that wrote and evaluated our website stuff. They're the youngest guys that know the most about this stuff. I don't know anything about it. So
some of these hours with this marketing and communications can go towards Parks and Rec.
It can go towards anything we need it to. Matt's been doing a pretty good job of getting things out there, but especially since one of our goals and our long-term vision is to be a recreational quality of life community, it would make a lot of sense to push some of that effort
Well, and
towards the
that's
Parks
the
and Recs.
number one question we get
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And that's a physical and an ethereal. We have to have our mindset on it. We have to have a way to walk there. We're working on that too. So we are.
We need some shovels and some asphalt, and
Yeah.
we'll get there.
Yep. So the next item, I'm going to have to kick this to Micah because he's the one that caught it to put on the agenda. I know we talked about it. What was one of you all said something about doing bylaws. I forgot what the issue was.
What we had discussed was creating a bylaw that established former chairpersons of the committee as essentially as pro tems, so that if the current chairperson is unavailable or that sort of thing, somebody that we know has experience can step in and just go ahead and run the show. So, and we'd suggest that because Pete wasn't going to be available for everything, but Marshall knew that he might not at times.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. And ultimately, there are 0 bylaws for this committee. One of the codes said many years ago that this committee has that authority to set your own bylaws. I guess the question for us, we didn't draft anything yet. What kind of scope do you guys want? Do you just want the one item as it relates to it?
Well, I always take most of my drinks, at least one.
We've got water right back there.
Yeah. It becomes defined drinks.
I think it would be good to have just kind of a definition of the group, what the purpose is.
And I think most of that is actually in the ordinance. But from a bylaw standpoint, I think most of that's all in there. What the bylaws will be is how you guys work together. If we wanted to create some of these subcommittees, how do we do that? If you remember how that was very cumbersome and unwieldy because we didn't have any rules for anybody to go, here's how you do it. Oh, here's how you do it. But maybe you don't want to be that formal. Maybe it is, we'll start with hey, if Marshall's gone, who's going to run the meeting? It'll be that guy. Well, that guy's getting stitches in his thumb, so who's the next? Kind of a 25th Amendment, if you would. What's the succession plan? If Marshall's not here today, who runs the meeting? If Pete's getting surgery on his thumb and Marshall's gone, who runs the meeting? If we got more than 3, then we're getting close to quorum issues anyway. So, but we can draft something like that up, easy enough, and have it for your vote at the next meeting. But
The less the better for me, the less formal, the less I have to try to remember, so we got a couple things.
You always end up with the question every year of how long does the person stay as the chair?
Yeah.
You know,
That's what I
that
want.
comes up every year. Oh, I don't know how to.
oh, you were talking about term as president or chairman. Okay.
Members.
Yeah.
Yeah, or, yeah.
I think it's depending on. Some of them are operational, but I think they're in there as 3-year terms staggered. I think the code already lays that out. We've got them written down somewhere.
Maybe we need to review that first.
Okay. We can certainly do that. And we can get you the dates of appointment and the terms of appointment. There are 2 positions that are a little different because they are more related to your employer than you personally, although you personally drove your employer being the one into it. So
we have in the ordinance a lot of that laid out.
yeah, the school district has a representative
Is
that
that in the ordinance?
the school district and the chamber, they make,
And the board, right?
yeah, and the board
We're
rep.
the same way, right?
Right.
So.
I forgot, good point. Yeah,
So we
there's
have
3 of them.
that, and we're talking about a one-line bylaw that would describe who runs the meeting at the chair. So it seems silly to me to have, I mean, we can do that, I'm not opposed to this, so we have one bylaw.
I know.
Well, then we can, once you have a bylaw.
We get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Well, at least there's something.
Yeah, Steve's got a few.
We have bylaws.
Yeah.
We're governed by bylaws.
We have bylaw.
Gotta
We're
have
not
two.
some willy-nilly group.
Yeah.
One more
Dilly
bylaws,
dilly.
right?
We're gonna have to.
Dilly-dilly.
Gotta have to.
To the pit of misery.
Yeah. Dilly dilly. Okay. If you want, I can come up with obviously we've got one. We need the past chair.
I think we need to
But I can-
define how long a person would sit in a position as chair.
Okay.
And because that just knows.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and ultimately, they shall elect a chair and set the bylaws. But ultimately, I can get you, I'll pull some bylaws from other groups and entities, and we'll have a draft of a potential for you.
I say a lot of times the ordinance kind of forms the basis for the bylaws, and then you add a few things on
How do you
we
feel
can operate, right?
You got the bones, we
Yeah.
need to meet.
Yeah, I like that thought, Jack. I mean, why not look at some what we consider to be highly functioning economic development capitals and highly functioning cities that we respect, and, look at how they do business.
That's in the government game, the best ideas are those stolen for free.
Well, it's education as well.
You tell us what.
Yeah. I mean, they've already went down the path of breaking things.
On all cylinders, why
Yeah.
can't I look at what you got?
Right. Why do it's reinventing the wheel. We don't have to do that. So I can get draft bylaws.
So we'll just look at that again next.
Yep, at the next meeting.
Public comment is nil, like my report.
Yeah. and the USA Soccer. Yeah. New business is the section where you guys get to say, I want to discuss this item at the next meeting.
And I think
What's
you
your,
had one
Well,
earlier.
the
yeah.
motorcycle guide for Missouri.
And I will ask Rusty if you can to get some of that contact information to Micah, and maybe you and he can have a conversation about where we need to go, so we can get that stuff prepped for the motorcycle guide.
Yep, and,
Okay.
and we used it slightly, if not that effectively, to support goal 3, where we had shared marketing opportunities between businesses.
Yeah, and I-
There's definitely an opportunity there to have individual businesses, well, basically, you can buy a page in the guide, the city can at a reduced rate compared to what 4 individuals could buy a quarter page. And
Right.
we tried to get that over last time, but I think we can do more of that. And there's probably opportunities like that elsewhere, where, you get, I don't know, where the, local paper, or magazine, other things where we could share a page.
Right.
And, it would be so much cheaper, and I'd definitely be up for things like that. I think there's a lot of businesses going to do it.
Okay.
Those will be items to discuss on our new business.
And not really new business, but I wanted to thank several folks around the table and in the community who stepped up to help out with the meet with Kirk Davis from the search committee on our search for a new city administrator. So thank you to everyone who's volunteered time and has done it or is scheduled to do it. So thank you very much.
Recommended updates to the CIP.
Everything's CIP, Community Investment Program, Capital Improvement Program. We may change the
Wait a minute, why is that one coming here?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, trust me, coming into this blind, that was really confusing to me.
Yeah. We will change, and one of them will be changing the names. It's not
Yeah,
CIP.
he's like, you're going to make decisions on the CIP. I was like, why am I making decisions on?
Yeah. Okay.
Those
Anything
are
else?
infrastructure projects, sewers and roads and.
Do you want me to give a 10-second analytics so we can have that?
Last thing, and then we'll allow Marshall to, and I apologize for not remembering this at the item 3. The analytics. Leah requested, this will actually be formal. This holiday kind of screwed things up. Didn't get a formal packet out simply because the person who usually does that is Cindy Mason, and she was gone last week on vacation. So what you got was from me. Sorry for the misspellings or typos.
And I know Pete had asked for charts and graphs because they're prettier. Unfortunately, my wife was in the hospital for a week and a half there for a while, so I'm running a little behind as well, playing catch up after the holiday. But the long and short of it is we're still up quite a bit. Facebook, the overall fans are up 1%, which is like 200 people.
Are people liking the page?
Yeah. The engagement's up 15% from what we saw last month even, so we still have more people commenting, sharing, that sort of thing. Our overall traffic to our pages is up 30%, which is great. They're actually reading what we send out. Twitter engagement's up 20%. Instagram followers, of course, remember we started at 0 there, so we had like 4,400 last month. This month it was the more realistic 30%, which is still really good. Overall sentiment, I look at Facebook sentiment because it tends to be a little more accurate. Our Twitter and Instagram sentiment is almost universally positive because we get fewer comments and input. Facebook sentiment is about 30% positive, 55% neutral, which is about right. So that's not.
Are we advertising? Is there any advertising going on any of those platforms?
Every now and then I boost a post if it's really important and we need to get it out there. Our natural reach, just people sharing it and reading it just because I post it, has actually been pretty good lately. It used to be about 300, now we're up to about 2,300, so quite a bit of improvement there. When we boost them, we've had them as high as 10,000, so it kind of depends on how many people
Boost
we
my
need to get.
barbecue class.
Right? See? As soon as they get me my P card, yeah. But no, that's another thing that I know some of the things we have to boost because we have to get some of that info out there, but the marketing company will hopefully be able to suggest what the smart boosts are to maximize some of those that are all about attracting. Especially in those times where I'm like, hey, this is going on at Chops, or this is going on at Soiree, or the Chamber's got this out at Ladoga, and we want people from out of town to come to them as well. Those are the ones that we really need to push as high as possible. So.
And we may want to look at that as a fundraising opportunity to create a partnership. If we've got something that's performing fairly well, that may be a call to Dan and say, hey, Dan, for $5, we can boost your post. That's what our Facebook, if you've seen it, Facebook kicks it to you. Here's your boost opportunity. $5 will get you to this many more people.
X dollars for X number of people, for Y number of people.
I think I got a $20,000 one the other day.
Yeah.
For $20,000, we could get you to 150,000 people. It's like, yeah, I bet you can.
Yeah.
We can get you to them, but them to you.
Yeah. Whatever.
In India,
whatever those numbers are. As you
Tomorrow.
can tell, I'm not the marketing guy. $5, man. I've seen that one before, but.
Yeah, usually they hang around 100, around there, you know. But some of the recent ones,
right.
I don't know if something's going on in
the average for our target area, which is Smithville plus about 25 miles, give or take, is about $30 to boost to basically reach.
I do a $5 a day. That's on $5 a day maximum on the restaurant that does geo-targeting within about 10 miles.
Yeah, and you can set them up
Shows
different
up on
ways.
people's.
You can set them up daily. You can set them up for a month long. You can do.
Yeah, I see it every day. And I like the page, so
Right. That's because
I don't
of that
click
ad.
because I don't want to spend on it. But
I actually don't go to Facebook. So.
Yeah.
yours I don't see it, but I like to.
Okay.
Put it
Any other new business requests?
in. No, the sponsors.
Finished our staff report way late. Sorry.
January is when you need to look at that stuff that we worked on. That's when we have that.
Yeah, we want to, on the investment program, we want to hand it in December so we can be ready to go in January.
I mean, our rules and stuff, we discussed that in January already.
Oh, did
We
we?
discussed it, I pulled this out, it was, I didn't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry, but it was in, like, around the January 10th, we had we did it at a special meeting.
We have the minutes. We'll go find that. Okay, we'll pull it out.
December.
January 10th.
The fourth Tuesday in December is the 26th.
26th. That's what I was going to
I don't
ask.
think I'm doing that.
So we want to look at that.
Yeah, we certainly can adjust that schedule within your purview, even though we don't have bylaws.
Well, maybe, I think we got number 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we go the 19th?
19th is board meeting.
Yes.
Board meeting that.
12th is election sign-ups. I know everyone will be down here signing up anyway.
Well, and the bigger problem for us is going to be, that's also really close for us to get some of the work done.
Should we,
We can move it to Wednesday.
Yeah, can we do
stay away
27th?
from the week of Christmas?
That week
20th or
between-
25th?
Just make it a day or night. Wednesday or Thursday.
I'm here all the time, so.
20th is court.
Yeah. If 20th is the court, then we could do it the 27th, the day, couple of days after Christmas.
Before Christmas is gonna be tough.
I think the 27th is where it works for me.
27th.
It works for me.
Is that the general consensus? Wednesday, the 27th at 6:15?
Do you need it formally?
I'll prep the agenda on that
Chaos it
day.
is.
Yeah, no, it doesn't need to be a formal one.
With that, I know you need a formal motion to adjourn, so I move to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Just Bill. Yeah.
Adjourn at,
You did good.
1947.
I did not do much.
It has a small delay, yeah. So it depends on which company you're using. Facebook's something that takes a little more.
So is it a barbecue class or a judging class?
Brisket class.
Okay.
When's that gonna be, Dan?
The 9th.
The 9th? What time?
8 a.m. to whenever we get done.